Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another event from Savvy Docs. I am Chia Gozie Fowler. If we have not met, hey, we're about to have quite some fun this evening. All right, so I'm gonna just go ahead and just like get my screen going because tonight I actually have quite a bit to get through. And as I was working on it yesterday, I was like, should I make this into three different sessions? But I think I'm talking to doctors so we can handle it. It will not be like drinking from a fire hose. I can promise you that because something that people actually tell me is that I do have a gift of breaking things down to the very simple, like doable, bite-size format. So I'm really excited this evening. And while you're here, if you have not yet already, go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat so you get to meet someone new. Who knows? You just may make a connection out here in the Savvy Doc virtual world. So meet someone in the chat. I will be taking a look at the chat a little later. Millie, if you can help me just keep track of any kind of questions that pop up, put them on the spreadsheet. That way we can get to them later. Because tonight, I really could start this session, okay? And this is kind of tongue in cheek. I really could start this session by showing you how Dr. Chang over here got back $170,000 in federal and state refunds back in 2023 when she worked with me, okay? And it all began from probably something like this, something virtual, something that she probably was watching in her pajamas or whatever. She's actually an anesthesiologist. And then eventually, when we worked together and applied a few of the things that I'm actually going to be sharing with you all tonight, this was the result. So if you think that this is just some random thing that you just popped your head into on a Thursday evening, I'm gonna have you recalculate your plans tonight because we're gonna be talking about quite a few really exciting things that really could help uncap your income over the next few years. Okay, this is another doc over here, Dr. Lee, who actually worked with me a few years ago. And all I'm really just trying to show you is that the things that we talk about in Savvy Doc world are actual life enhancing, actually life enhancing. This one worked with me, what is it, 2, 3, I forget now, a little while ago, and was able to get back $24,000 in her taxes that year. But tonight though, okay, what I really, really want to know is what brought you to the call today? What made you say, you know what? It's Thursday evening and Shea Gazier is hosting this thing. I'm not even sure I even understand exactly what she called it. She called it like ditch side gigs and get meaningful income. But I kind of want to be there tonight. So tell me in the chat, what was it that piqued your curiosity enough to have come onto a Zoom call on a Thursday evening? Because I want to make sure that by the time we are done, okay, that I have at least, I can't promise necessarily that you know, world peace will be solved by the time this call is done. Okay, let me actually just make sure that everybody can send to everybody. Hold on one second. I may not be able to promise that world peace will be solved by the time this is done. Okay. Um. Oh, everyone. Okay. But I do want to know what matters to you tonight. Okay. So please type it in the chat. Type in the chat your big goal. What made you join the call this evening? And if you have been on any of my sessions, you know that I don't mind waiting until I see a response. So the sooner we got a response, the sooner we will proceed. So type in the chat. Let me know what questions are on your mind about generating income outside of medicine. What are the nagging questions, the gnawing questions, those things you actually want to learn about, so that I can hopefully possibly highlight them if they're part of my talk already, or if not, maybe weave them into this talk somehow, or maybe a different talk. Who knows? Type in the chat. Type in the chat. There you go. Okay. What area is actually worth our time and effort? There you go. Generating passive income. Awesome. Okay. Yep. Awesome. Excellent. And making extra money to move the future for myself to become easier. Excellent. Great. Okay. Perfect. Great. talks here. Okay, now the first thing that I like to mention in my talks here is that any and everything that you hear or learn during this session or this challenge or whatever is for infotainment purposes only. In other words, I am not your financial advisor. I will be sharing with you things that I may have done that I either have done or am working on, or things that I have found to be impactful for myself, my clients, and people like that. So just make sure that before you apply any and all of this, that you talk with the people that actually understand your actual financial situation, advisors, CPAs, etc., all of that, okay? Now, my goals today, though, my goals today are to open your eyes to more, okay? Somebody type more in the chat. To open your eyes to more, okay? To help you basically shatter a few ceilings in your mind, ceilings that may have said, I am only this, or I can only do this, or I'm a doctor, and so here's a boundary that is around me. Okay, I want to shatter those ceilings so that you can actually step out into your full brilliance, step out into being the full person that you were born and created to be. Okay, so that you can actually fulfill your God-given potential, not trapped or boxed into the box that we call being physicians or healthcare providers or whatever name or brand we want to call ourselves. Okay. But my third goal here right now is to basically give you practical tools to help uncap your income. Okay. I want to give you practical tools because if you know me, my friends actually laugh at me. My friends kind of chuckle that if there's probably something out there, Chia Gossi has probably tried it. Okay. A friend of mine actually said, she's like, you are among the most brilliant people that I have met. Okay. But so I can really give you like a lot of theory. As for theory, I got theory, okay? But tonight, I don't have time for theory because when I look around and I talk to doctors, when I talk to be they employed or employers, one of the things that I see is that they have noticed a shift. Somebody type shift in the chat. People have noticed that there has been a shift in medicine. There has been a shift in the sentiment towards or against doctors. There has been a shift in reimbursement. There has been a shift in a lot of things. And so now a lot of people find themselves in these jobs that they have committed their lives to, and realizing, okay, something's got to happen because I need to take a cap off my income. So tonight, we'll be focusing on practical things that you can do. So if you do not have a pen yet, now will be the time to go grab a pen and paper, okay? Because I'm going to be sharing with you just a few things that you probably want to come back to, okay? So pay attention and sit with me. If you have kids crawling around your feet, call the husband, okay? If you have a cat that's like gnawing at your feet right now, kick it away. I'm sorry. I'm totally messing with you guys. All right. But by the time this is done, okay, let's get this out of the way. Some of you, okay, will choose to spend some time and or money with me. You may choose to attend our live events that I'll tell you about. Okay. Some of you, after you spend time with us on this call this evening, may decide that you want to continue in some way with me or my business partners or any of that. Let's get that out of the way. I'll be telling you about ways that you can work with us by the time this is done, okay? But before I can earn the ability or even face, should I say, to invite you to anything else, I have to make sure that I make your time worthwhile, okay? So if you decide that, you know what, I'm going to spend the next 90 minutes with Chia Gauzy. Actually, now it's more of like, what's 90 minutes and 15? The next 75 minutes, that's what it is, okay, with me, okay? My promise is that I will give you valuable tools. And then if you decide to be like these docs that came for our live event back in 2022, right? And then ended up buying their short-term rental or, getting some huge tax savings or whatever it is that I may be showing you down the line by the time we're done chatting this evening, then you can do that. But in the meantime, I just need your full attention as we talk about really important things. Now, I know that there are some of you that have not met me yet, okay? A few of you I have met in person, a few of you I have not yet met. If we have not met, hey, hey, I'm Chia Gazier Fowley. I am a pediatric anesthesiologist based in the Syracuse, New York area. I love, 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 love to chat about all things, about, doctors, building wealth, real estate, acquisitions, all of that. If you see me online, you will probably not hear much about anesthesia. You'll probably hear about something that is income stream generating related, okay? Like I said, I am based in the Syracuse area. These are my girls and my clan, if you may. That's my husband Oluwatoyin. He is, in IT. But I didn't start out as this person who was like very vibrant on screen and energetic and all of that, talking about all these things. I was actually a resident, okay? And during residency, I noticed that there was a dichotomy between my attendings, okay? I mean, I had two different types of attendings. I noticed that because at the time, the attendings used to buy us dinner during when we were on call. And there were some attendings that when they came to buy us dinner, it was like, oh, what would you like for dinner? Ask that one what she would like. Ask him what he would like. And we'll spend like, I don't know, $140, $180. This is like back in, 2013-ish. And they'll just buy, they'll spend or whatever. And then there were some attendings that would be more like, oh, okay, you get $10 and you get $10 over there. And I was like, it's a very subtle thing, but what this tells me is that just being an attending anesthesiologist doesn't necessarily like guarantee that you're, rolling in the dough. Huh. And I was like, but so that means that there's something that these ones are doing that this one is probably not doing that's making this one over here because they're in the same group. So technically they probably earn similar amounts. And I'm thinking, I want to be this one over here, right? I want to be this person over here that has the capital, that has money to give for resident dinner. It was something very simple and very subtle. But at that point, I made the decision that I wanted to basically educate myself and train myself on whatever it was that helped people actually build wealth over time. Now, at the time, I had no money, okay? Let's get that out of the way. I had no money and no plans, and all I knew at the time was medicine, okay? I had done step one, step two. I mean, name all the steps, right? Those were the things that I knew at the time. But as I began reading and learning, it began with real estate, okay? I ended up getting my first property based on the things that I had learned, using creative financing. The very first deal that we did was a rehab deal all the way down in Norfolk. I did the deal from Brooklyn, New York, okay? But all the way down in Norfolk, Virginia, we found a property and I was able to basically coordinate everything about it, the financing, the funding, all of that. That flip in 2016, we bought that property, did the renovations, and sold it. Now, I'd like to tell you that the first deal was a home run, but it was not, okay? But after that deal, I said, you know what? Let's not. So I decided to now like buy a 12-unit apartment complex, as you can see in this picture, up here in Rochester, New York. And again, I still had no money. This deal I got for $900 out of pocket because I was able to put the deal together creatively with other doctors that at the time had money. I was still a resident at this point, okay? So this was the beginning of our rental property journey, all right? And as time will go on, I began my new attending job. And I'm telling you this story for a reason, okay? Not just to waste time. I don't waste time on my calls. But when we moved from Rochester to Syracuse, I began my brand new job, brand new attending. And then I had a baby in 1 week. She was supposed to come in 3 months, but she came in 1 week. So she was about 25 weeks old. So at 25 weeks, I now had a preemie. But as I was negotiating the conversations with my new bosses, they were talking about, well, you can use your paid leave here, and then this will have to be unpaid, or you can take. And I think to myself, I'm like, wait, hold on 1 second. Are these folks like, am I really having a conversation about how much time I'm going to take off to take care of my preemie? Okay, because and then it hit me that if I did not show up at work, I did not get paid. Okay, as crazy as it sounds, that was a huge aha moment for me that made me say, okay, whatever it is, I need to learn how to create my own additional income streams outside of medicine. Income streams that are preferably independent of my showing up every single day, every single time to get paid. So of course I went down the rabbit hole, right? The side gig rabbit hole. Okay, the one we all hear about. Oh, you need a side gig, a side hustle, a side whatever. And so I began with, guess what? Essential oils. Okay. Now, before this, I knew nothing about essential oils, but I thought, you know what? I don't care what it is. I need to learn how to build this thing. And I remember then, I mean, I don't, because hey, as you can see, when I do something, I go all in, right? So I learned about these oils and I was talking about them and I was posting about them. And I picked up my favorite, the ones that I felt I could actually, like, in all honesty and alignment, actually talk about, right? The ones that I had great experiences with, I'll talk about them. But guess what? Whenever I made a sale, I only made $50 from it. And then as time went on, I said, you know what, let me try e-commerce. So I began to sell on Amazon. That was an entire flop. I literally had my product destroyed because I had done it in such a hurry that I totally blew that whole thing. Okay. But as all of this was happening, okay, our rental property portfolio was growing, one house at a time, one duplex at a time, and we're building and renovating. And I'm going to be showing you over time how things have transitioned for us, okay, so that you can also start to kind of see what my frame of mind is as I share with you the different strategies that I'm going to be sharing with you this evening, okay? But what I want to share with you this evening, honestly, are three what I call six-figure secrets that I say keep doctors earning peanuts chasing side gigs. It burns my heart. Well, maybe not burn is not the word because I wouldn't let it do that much to me. But it really hurts me, okay? When I see people posting about doing surveys on the side gig groups, I'm like, you're doing a survey? You're doing a survey for $20? I'm not gonna go there this evening, okay? When people talk about these things, and I'm like, you are an entire physician. Your time, if you did a simple locums hour, could probably get you 200 to $500 an hour. But you're doing a survey with your precious time. Let's not even. Let's not even. All right. So the first secret that I'll be going over this evening will be the identity secret. Okay, how to identify things that you already have in you that could literally hold six figures, 6 to 7, honestly, because I mean I said six, but honestly, really, there's no cap here, right? The next will be the asset secret, how to turn your dream purchase into real income, not income that you use to just pay for a pair of shoes, but income that actually like rings the bell somewhere. And then the third one is what I call the acquisition secret, okay? Why smart doctors buy income instead of building. All right. So the first, okay, and as I was making this up, I remember Dr. Ruth. She was one of my clients when I was while I was coaching real estate. She called me a few weeks ago, literally maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, and she was like, "Oh my goodness, Chiagozie, like this is." She was having a bittersweet moment, okay, because she was selling her property that she bought while she worked with me, and she was making a $70,000 plus profit. And I'm like, I know it's bittersweet, but I will take the sweet right now. Who in the chat here will be happy with her sweet here? Okay, because I actually called her before I put this slide up. I was like, okay, am I allowed to share this online? Like, can I put your name and face on this? And she's like, yeah, and go ahead. It happened, right? And I verified the number. She was like, it's 70K plus. Okay, so she sold a house that she bought while we worked together, and it came out to 70K profit. Okay, this is a doctor that prior to all of this had no entrepreneurial whatever background. She was a family practice, either family practice or internal medicine doc. And with just one house, this is just one of the houses that she bought with us, made 70K profit. So just like hang tight because we'll delve right into secret number one. If you are ready for secret number one, discovering your bankable business identity, type a one in the chat, okay? Type a one in the chat. There we go. I'm seeing, hey, Dr. Kim. All right. I've seen 2 people type one in the chat. Okay. There are more of you on this call here. So be sure to put in your one. Let me know that you're here, that you're picking up what I'll be putting down shortly. Okay. Now, what do I mean by your bankable business identity? Okay. When I took this picture, excuse me, excuse me. When I took this picture, I was standing in the OR at my pediatric anesthesiology job. I don't even know what was happening, honestly, but I love the picture because it came out really good. Like my face was like all on fleek. You know what I'm saying? Like everything was looking on point. Okay. Anybody who saw me in this picture would say, "Oh, she's a doctor, right? She's a pediatric anesthesiologist." Okay. But at about the same time, I don't remember exactly what year I took this, but knowing sort of what has happened in the last few years, I know that for a fact, well, I know that sometime around this time, I was both a pediatric anesthesiologist, I was a real estate investor, buying and renovating and fixing up properties. I was a mom, okay? I was probably also a coach at the time, and if I have my dates right, probably doing about 250K annually in that what you call side business, right? Okay? But you can't tell that from this picture. So the first thing that I want to identify when I talk about your bankable business identity is that you have to shake the idea that you are a one-trick pony. Type in the chat, I am not a one-trick pony. Type in the chat, I am not a one-trick pony. Why do I want you to put that in the chat? Because one day while I'm sitting at work, I was talking with a gentleman who was actually a locums doc. And what he said to me was, "Man, I am a one trick pony." And I was like, "Oh my goodness, that is something that no doctor should ever say." Because built into our regular lives, are transferable skills that if you simply knew how to translate, you could identify clearly bankable businesses that you literally are carrying inside of you right now. You may have ignored these businesses up to this point, but after tonight, I can almost promise you, almost, that you will start to see not only business ideas, you will start to see businesses by the time you start to work through the rubric that I'm about to show you in one moment. Okay? So okay, one core concept you must understand is that money follows value. And if you are able to identify a problem that someone has, a problem that you may have the solution to, a problem that either hurts enough or is what's the word? Tempting enough, right? That either takes them away from pain or brings them toward pleasure, then I can almost promise you that money would usually follow. Now, how much money? That will be the subject of a different slide on this page, okay? But just understand that number one, money follows value. There are 3 questions that I'll have you navigate. This is where your pen and paper actually come in handy. 3 questions in my bankable business identity framework that you can that if you answer, you will get closer, if not actually identifying a possible business that you already have inside of you, just waiting to be, revealed. The first question, and grab your pen and paper and answer this question. And if you don't have pen and paper, you know what? Put it in the chat. Let's use the chat this evening, right? What is a problem that you can solve? And sometimes, when I say, "Oh, what's a problem you can solve?" people draw a blank. They're like, "Well, I'm a doctor." Okay. And I say, "Okay, I know you're a doctor, but now let's just think a little broader." Can you list a couple of skills that you have? And when I say skills, it could be something that you do so like easily, and people are like, "Wait, what? That that took you just like a day? Wait, you just did this thing like nothing?" Or you hear people like griping about it the whole time. "Oh, I hate doing this, I hate doing that." And you're like, "Oh my goodness, that lights me up," right? Or maybe something that like people don't really like to do, but then you're like, "I will do this all day long. Matter of fact, I will even volunteer to do this thing." Okay, type in the chat so we can start to like see a few ideas. Okay, so either skills that you have, experiences that you have gained, okay, things you do easily, or knowledge you've acquired. So you've taken a course, you've taken 3 courses. Who are my course takers here? Okay. Lucia, there you go, making people laugh, de-escalating situations. Nice. Okay, great. That's a good one. Who else wants to just like, type something in the chat so that we can get our juices flowing here. Because by the time we're done with this like short exercise, some of you may actually have the seeds of what may be your next six-figure or seven-figure business. Okay, Dr. Heron here says making people feel heard. Yes, yes, absolutely. Helping people with past trauma. Okay, ancient pre-Diluvian history of the world. Awesome. Okay, so you can see that like these are very like broad community and team builder. That is definitely that is absolutely a skill. Community and team building, yes. And I'll tell you, Dr. Kim, this alone right here, what you just said right now, I can certainly trace at least $30,000 that is attributed to this singular thing that you mentioned, community and team builder. Okay. So let me give you a hint here. Very often, when it comes time to brainstorm this, your real secret sauce is probably that thing that you're saying, but it's just. That's a secret. What I'm going to have you guys do is that, or you late, actually, all of you do, is that when we are done with this call, just sit with yourself for about 15 to 20 minutes and just brain dump. Brain dump. Don't filter. Imagination is free. So just brain dump things that you do, that you like, that you're trained in, that you've experienced, that you could possibly teach someone, that you just think about it. Okay? Because the next piece of this is, who can I solve the problem for? Okay? And this is another place where a brain dump is usually needed. Okay? Because if I took, for example, Dr. Lucia's making people laugh. Okay? Who can you do that for? Well, let's help her brainstorm right here. Who are some people that she can make laugh? Okay? And I'm just going to just go broad. She can go to a comedy club and make people laugh. She can lighten the mood at work. She can go to kids, like her children's school if she has kids, and host a little fun day for the kids and make the kids laugh. Or she can, create funny skits and put them on TikTok and then make people laugh that way. Or she could host a YouTube channel and make that work and help the entire world laugh. Or maybe she can make doctors laugh, right? Or she can make women laugh and share maybe jokes that only women would really like resonate with. Or she can make, let's just say, I don't know if she's an immigrant or whatever, but let's say she's an immigrant and then she's like, oh yeah, I can make immigrants laugh. So when you're answering the question, who, I want you to get as broad, just throw it all out there, okay? Because the next question that we're going to ask and answer now will help us bring it down. But in the brainstorming phase, you're just going to dump, okay? Think about large groups, small groups, granular groups, defined groups, broad, just make it just freestyle, okay? But as you are thinking about who, you should be identifying possible pain points. And I highlight pain points because some people say, and I say some people, this is not gospel, but some people say that people will generally pay to get out of pain more than they will lean towards pleasure. So yes, you can actually do both. You can either, help people away from pain, or you can push people towards something that they like. So while you're brainstorming who you can solve this problem for, think, what are some ways you can relieve pain or bring pleasure? Relieve pain or bring pleasure using the skills, ideas, experiences, and techniques that you have in your toolkit. And when you're working on this, you are therefore identifying who your target audience will be. Now, if you are anything like me, then you probably are thinking, Chiagozie, I help everybody. Like, I am so skilled, I can help everybody. Like, who does not need what I have? But I'm going to give you a secret right here. If you try to talk to everybody, very often you end up talking to nobody, okay? And you will also find that very often when you eventually pick your niche you don't necessarily have to niche down so small, but when you pick your people, the people that you want to talk to, okay, others will come to you and say, hey, I am not a, let's say, doctor, okay, but I think I could benefit from what you're doing. Would you want to work with me as well? Okay. I have had multiple people reach out to me at different points and they'll say, hey, I'm not a doctor, but I like what you're doing. Can I be a part of it? And I'm like, heck yeah, money's green, right? Yeah, right. Now, the next part is, and this is the part that I think changes the game for a lot of people. Because our as a group, generally speaking, we are a very sacrificial, we are a very considerate, and I'm using the word considerate, not to say that you should be inconsiderate, but I think sacrificial, like we like being matters, matters, right? Like we like to give until like we can't, until we don't have anything else to give. But when it comes to what we're talking about this evening, you need to understand that to be able to do that, you need to have your own mask on first. Okay? Whenever you're thinking, you always should be thinking of, if you've ever flown, how do you put on your own mask before you try to help other people? Because if you don't put on your own mask first, then the people become the collateral damage. Somebody write that down, because I'm gonna need to write it out. Write it down myself, okay? If you don't put on your own mask first, the people become collateral damage. You hurt people in the process. So those who say, well, I'm not about the money, excuse me, what else are you about? Because if you're not about the money, then the enterprise fails. And if the enterprise fails, then everything else shuts down. You're not able to actually fuel the good intentions that you had in your heart when you started. Okay? So you need to understand this third piece of the puzzle, which is who will pay the most for that thing that you had in mind. Okay? Because you can take the very same subject matter and you teach it to residents, right? And residents will be grateful, they'll be glad, and they'll pay you $50. But you take the same information and teach it to, let's just say, attendings. And attendings will be grateful and they'll be happy, and they actually have the means to pay you multiple 5 figures for the same thing. Okay? So, in picking the audience, in picking the people that you want to serve, put on your oxygen mask first and identify, for the same amount of work done, who will be willing and able to pay me for that thing that I want to offer or deliver. Okay? So, for example, if I say that I want to offer something to, even heck, doctors, right? I could either go to doctors who are actually making money or doctors who are not making money. Okay? I could go to, new entrepreneurs or established entrepreneurs. Okay? I could do different things. But what I want to tell you is that when you do that brainstorm, start to circle which of the options actually have potential for giving you income because the people will be willing and able. Okay? Now, one piece that a lot of people, okay, so the three question framework is: number one, you can screenshot this page. What problem can I solve? That's what you brainstorm. Who can I solve it for? That's what I call finding your who. That's actually what's his name? It was Pedro Adeo that coined that part. So find your who. All right. And then the third one is who will pay the most to have that problem solved. So one other way you can actually think of this is, for whom is this problem the most expensive? Okay? Because let's say, for example, you learned how to buy real estate, okay? And you had options on who to work with. You could work with someone who had $10,000 that they were looking to deploy. Or you could go find someone that had $1 million to deploy. Now, the 10K person, okay, is thinking, oh, where can I put this money? The 1 million person is like, where can I put this money like stat? Because every day this money is sitting in my bank account is, you know, multiple percentage points of potential interest being lost by the day. So identifying who has the most expensive version of your problem is going to be key to identifying a good market that will ultimately be your bankable business identity. Okay? Does that are you getting are you picking up what I'm putting down? Type a 2 in the chat if you're still with me. Type a 2 in the chat. If you can understand this concept, you will save yourself from the peanut runaround. Okay? If you can understand this simple concept, you will save yourself from the peanut runaround that I see on the internet where people, spend so much energy and they're selling a $27 thing, okay, with no external plan. They're like, oh yeah, I have this thing, but it's gonna save the world, but I don't want it to be like too expensive, and so it's $27, and so now I have to sell, a whole like 300,000 to make any money with it. Okay, so screenshot this because that's your homework for tonight. If you can understand this, just this segment alone, you will be well on your way to leaving the peanut runaround and moving into meaningful income and escaping the whole side gig trap. All right. But there is one missing piece that I have to mention in addition to this three-part framework. And that is that in identifying your who, identifying your what, identifying who's going to pay you the most, you need to understand that there is something called a total addressable market, which I simply put here as large enough market. And I actually had a client, and I'll probably share a testimonial in a few, but I worked with her for 12 months. Over the last 12 months, actually, we just finished our engagement last month. But part of the biggest thing I was trying to get across to her when we began working together was this concept of a total addressable market or a large enough market. Because if you're going to choose whatever you're going to choose, you need to understand that in finding the people that will actually pay you this money, you have to find the people. Okay? So if you niche yourself down too small, then there may actually be people that you can help, but you just may not be able to find them. Okay. So even though you want to niche down, generally speaking, at some point you may say, okay, this niche is now too small. I may need to back up a little bit and get my market a little bigger. In her case, she was trying to help doctors go into concierge medicine. She was trying to help doctors break away from, the chokehold of what we may call corporate medicine, and then be able to actually practice medicine on their terms using the concierge medicine model. But when we began working together, she wanted to work with established concierge medicine docs because she felt she wanted to have a higher level conversation. She wanted to work with people who were already like struggling in their practices to help them make that practice better. And we talked about it for a while. And I said, okay, doc, I understand what you're trying to say, but guess what? If you want to get this thing off the ground, you're going to need to talk with people who just want to get into concierge medicine. And it was based on this market. Now, she's an amazing doc. I love her so much. But eventually, she marketed a full launch to those people. And she couldn't find them. Okay? She couldn't find them. And I said, now this is what I meant. And so the second time around, she decided to now market to the people that were all over, right? People who were, W-2 practicing docs, right? Who wanted to learn the concierge medicine idea. And now she actually has a program. So she actually sent me, and I forgot to screenshot this earlier. You know what? Actually, maybe I'll be able to find it. But anyway, I'll just read it out to you here. So she sent me a text and she said, hold on. She said it was really it's been really, really fun to work with you. And I've been grateful for lots of your practical marketing advice, particularly at the end, because that was the point that she actually decided to do what I said. I'm so chuckling here. I love her so much. Okay. She said, I'm working to put this together, this very tiny team. And then she said, um, working on it has already helped my medical practice, learning to solve all the problems I was facing. Marketing helped me find some resources that I'm using for my practice. Basically, she said, just want to let you know we are 3 weeks in and doing well with our small first cohort. Okay. So because she finally moved back out to a larger market, okay, she was able to now actually identify people who could actually use her help. And in my mind, the way I'm thinking about it is that, hey, if she starts with that group and then she builds the brand around helping people get into concierge medicine, eventually those higher level people will emerge because they will now see her as the thought leader when it comes to anything concierge medicine in our space. Okay. So addressing a large enough market is part of going through this framework that as much as you want to niche down, you want to still have something left over, right? So that there are enough people for you to sell to, okay? So that they can actually find you and give you money. All right? You all still with me? So now I'm going to walk you through how this played out in my own story, okay? Because when I first started this, so this picture actually was taken when we hosted our in-person boot camp for short-term rentals. This was in 2022. So it was all nice and cute, but it didn't start that way, okay? Because the first time I offered my real estate course, guess how much I offered it? It's right there on the screen. $49. Yes, you missed it. Yep, you did. You missed it. Because that very first time, I read it for $49. But after a while, I was like, $49, that seems so little though. Okay. And I was like sweating high. I was like, palpitating, like, okay, all right, 297, okay, 297, okay, great, 297. And I sold it for 297. And I actually hosted, I think I had like 5 or so people sign up for this. And I was so excited. It was a 6-week course. And I put it all together. It was a 6-week course. It was amazing. One doc ended up, I mean, like people that did it there, like we're very, very grateful and they did stuff with it. But as time went on, I'm like, but what I'm teaching is really valuable. Like somebody buys a building or buys a property, they can literally make money for the rest of their lives. And so I made it into a 12-week program and I priced it at 2K. Okay. Now, again, it took a lot of internal work to work myself up to 2K, but I was like, no. Like people like the way that I teach. I actually teach, like people actually say that I teach pretty well. And people can get real results from this. So 2K. I think I had 3 people sign up. 3 people. And I remember then I was so excited because now I had made was it 3 people? Yes, no. Was it 2,400? Oh, yes. Okay. So 3 people signed up. 1 person paid in full, I believe. And I think the other 2 did payment plans. And so I did like, 20, it was $19.97 if you paid in full. And then it was like $800 a month. So 2,400 total if you did a payment plan. And so I think I made like 7,500 by the time everything was said and done. And for me, that was like mind opening. Like, oh my goodness, I just made 7,500 in like 1 week. I was so excited. I was so ecstatic. So I walked these people through, and one of the docs in this program ultimately went on to buy 18 rental units in the next 14 to 18 months, something crazy like that. And in fact, she's still in our world. That same doc will ultimately invest with me actually, with our recent raise that we just did. But I want to show you at some point, sometime around October. So this was around November. This happened in December that year during the pandemic. So this was December 2019. Okay. I walked them through the program all the way into March 2020. Pandemic hits, right? by October 2020, when you would say the world was like now officially like upside down, I made some strategic changes to the program. And in one night, I sold 2 seats of the program at $12,000. This means that in one night, I went from what I was charging 2K for, right? To selling 2 seats of this, to generating $24,000 in one night. Okay. Now you will say, okay, Chiagozie, what additional training did you take between the $49 course and the $12,000 program? I wish you could see my face, right? What additional training did Chiagozie take between $49 and 12K? Well, I did take an additional training, but it wasn't real estate training. Okay. The training that I took was on packaging, positioning, and pricing for profit. Okay. But when it comes to the actual knowledge that I had, nothing changed. Maybe a couple more months of experience, but nothing changed. Okay. So I did not have to get any additional certification. I did not have to go get an MBA, get any fancy equipment. But guess what? I had that breakthrough night and I made 24K in that one night. And I was off to the races that year. I ended up generating over 250K in revenue from this same me. Okay. So now let's get back to those of you that are on here tonight. What have you mentioned in there that you know someone is monetizing in the world? Any of the things that have come to mind for you, just type it in the chat right there. What is that one thing that you know that somebody out there is monetizing that you have not yet monetized? Potentially. Type in the chat. If you don't like my singing, type in the chat. There we go. Okay. What kind of consulting? What organizations? She said consulting for organizations, for those watching the replay. Okay. Oh, that is so huge. That is huge, Dr. Nichols. That is huge. Employee engagement and retention, because that is a six-figure problem right there. Anybody who has looked at any P&Ls, anybody that has done any kind of, run a business knows that for every employee that you lose or turn over, that turnover period can literally cost you hundreds of thousands, depending on what the person is doing. So, your job now, Dr. Nichols, is to learn how to break down for the people that you will be interacting with how it costs them money. You have to show the numbers. You have to show the numbers so that people can see how it's costing them more than it seems like. Okay? You have to show them. Because when you show them what it's costing them, at some point they'll be like, oh my goodness, I am bleeding. Stop the bleeding, please. Let's do it stat. And at that point, your 5 or 6-figure consulting fee is peanuts. Okay? So Dr. Heron here says, knowledge that is relevant for anyone working with people who are having difficulties communicating. Yep. Because you know that these like little communication gaffes, right, can cause strife in the workplace. They can cause burnout and people leaving and all of that, right? So the key, like I said, is learning how to package it, how to position yourself, and how to price it for profit. People think that profit is a 4-letter word. No, it's 6 letters, okay? It's okay. It's okay to build in your profit. As a matter of fact, it is required that you build in your profit. Because like we said earlier, if there is no profit, the enterprise suffers. And if the enterprise suffers, there is collateral damage. All right. So how would you rate what you've heard so far? On a scale of 1 to 10, okay? where would you put what you have heard so far because we're working towards 3. This was just secret number 1. And I'm like, okay, Chiago, say, should we even do this right now? Will it even be in line with what we're talking about this evening? All right. So for secret number 1, on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you rank this in terms of like 1 being meh, shouldn't have sat here through this, and 10 being, oh my goodness, give me more? Type in the chat. Okay. Okay. I love it. Okay. There you go. Dr. Lucia, hopefully by the time we get through secret number 2 and 3, we can get the remaining 2 in. Dr. Nicole still has like a 0.5 that she's still trying to get to. But okay, I love it. I love it. I can take it. Yeah. All right. Okay. All right. All right. So secret number 2, and I'm gonna stop sharing my screen for this one, okay? Because I'm gonna just like talk this one through. Secret number 2 is basically how we went. Hold on. I'm really gonna try to get this light on. Give me a second. As if I'm gonna use my. Okay, let's hope that stays on. Okay, so secret number 2 is how we went from earning peanuts from our properties to actually generating meaningful income from our rental properties. Okay. So who here buys rental property? If you buy rental property, type a me in the chat. Let me see. Or if you've considered buying rental property, type a me in the chat. Okay. Okay. So Irene said, okay, said me, considered. Yep. Had an STR and sold. Yep. Okay. Got it. Very good. All right. So hold on. Let me get this screen. So as I was sharing my journey earlier, one of the things that I said was that at some point, so we moved to Syracuse after I left residency, and I began my attending job here. But now at this point, I tried different side gigs here. I was doing, FBA and essential oils and all these other little things. But while that was happening, our portfolio was growing. Our real estate portfolio was growing, but we were primarily buying what you call long-term rentals. Long-term rentals are just your regular rentals that you have regular tenants in. And at the time, the portfolio was growing. And I could say, oh, I have 14 doors, right? Because like that's how we speak online. Oh, I have 13 doors, 200 doors, 300 doors, whatever. We had 14 doors at the time. But at the time, each of these properties roughly making plus or minus maybe $200 a month per unit. Some would do like 400 per unit. Not bad for long-term rental standards, right? And I was happy with that. I was happy with being able to get the long-term appreciation because they did appreciate the fact that like even that income was tax sheltered, all of that. But then one thing came to mind, and that was that the people I was talking with as I was trying to coach them on my real estate stuff, they were telling me that they wanted cash flow. They needed something that would help them right now. And that was when we made the pivot. Or that was actually, it was now in the process of now trying to find things that could help people generate cash flow that I stumbled upon the method called rental arbitrage. And if you've been in a savvy doc world, you've probably heard of that before, which is basically where you rent a property, not buy, but you lease a property from a landlord and turn it into a short-term rental, put it on Airbnb, and let people rent it from you. The idea there is that there's usually a delta. So, for example, if you lease a property for, let's just say, $2,000 and then you make $4,000 on that property, you can profit from the middle. Now, I did that, and then I was at a conference. Now, it was during the conference, as I was interviewing people, that I realized that other doctors were buying bigger properties, and some of them were I'm generating $150K from one house, and I was like, wait, what? Why am I here sitting down and enjoying my multiple doors, and somebody is generating $150K from one house? And as if that was not enough, the properties were also giving them amazing tax savings that I was not getting on the long-term rental side. Okay, so we made the switch. That's a long story short. We made the switch from long-term rentals to short-term rentals. And if you've been in our space now, you know that I can talk about short-term rentals from now till the cows come home. Okay, you know that I can talk about short-term rentals from now till the cows come home. If this is the first time you have heard that a property can give you tax savings on your business or W-2 income, type a 2 in the chat. Let me know if I should go into this. If this is the very first time you have heard that a property can give you tax savings, type a 2 in the chat. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. So I'm going to break it down in the simplest way that I know how. Give me a second. Let me pull it. Let me show you. Let me show you a picture. Where's Doris here? Okay. Share. Present. Okay. So meet Doris. If you've been around us for a while, you know Doris. You know I've talked about Doris, okay? Now, Doris was our very first lake house. When I heard that short-term rentals could do more than give you just the rents, we turned around and bought a lake house. Now, before this, I didn't think that I could afford to buy one. I thought that it was for quote unquote rich people, right? I did not know that you could use just 10%. You could put down just 10% to buy a property that you could then rent out. If that was news to you as well, type a 3 in the chat, okay? Because your life's about to be just beautifully transformed like mine was. Okay. So when I heard these while I was interviewing folk for the conference that I put on, I was like, wait, hold up. You mean I don't have to put down 25% and I can buy a lake house? Now, let me tell you why this math blew my mind. At the time, to buy a long-term rental in Syracuse, the duplexes we were buying, if we were going to buy them, off the shelf, we would have bought them for around $160,000. 25% of that would have been $40,000. What this meant was that with the same $40,000 that I would have used to buy an inner city duplex, I could now buy for 10% down an entire lake house, in our case here, for $406,000. So now, instead of now making the peanuts I was making on the long-term rentals, I could now, in one property that year, we generated $87,000 from one property. Now, the next year, it was $97,000, okay? And for those who are paying attention, this is top line revenue. So after our mortgage payments, okay, this meant we were bringing in roughly $30K from this one property. So let's just take a step back for a second. Those who are looking for side gigs, those who were looking for side gigs in the past, if you had a way to generate an extra $30,000 a year, will that be an okay payday? Just be honest. Type a yes in the chat. If you could just generate it, just an extra $30K a year, would you say that was a journey well taken? Okay, good. Because I thought so. Okay. I surely thought so. Okay. Because I was generating, and this is a property that now I got to keep. Before this, I never even thought I would care about a lake house. But guess what? We now had a place that we could go as a family to just enjoy. Right? Like, look at the kayaks. I didn't even know, my brothers visited and they got to hang out. Like, listen, I'm Nigerian, okay? I was born Nigerian. I was raised Nigerian. I'm a naturalized. I'm citizen. Okay. Lake houses were not part of my upbringing. Okay, they were not part of my naturalization. Like, they were not part of my anything. And hadn't been to a lake house until October 2021 when I went to my colleague's lake house and I was like, whoa, this is nice. But after we got ours, it was like, what? So we got more, right? So we bought more. But imagine if you could just get one of these, okay? $406,000, first year $87K, second year $97K. I believe the third year was also $97K, roughly $97. But As if that was not enough, we also got back a $26,000 tax refund when we filed our taxes after the first year. How does this work? Now, there are huge nuances to this. There are certain criteria you have to meet. You have to meet material participation criteria. You have to also meet actual basically you have to show that you are active in the daily running of the property, okay? To show that like this is something that you're actively involved in for this to be able to offset your active income, because the IRS lumps things into passive income buckets and active income buckets. Okay, well, it's technically called non-passive, but who's counting, right? So passive versus active. So if you have a lot of passive income, so let's say you are invested in other people's businesses, or like you have other passive income sources, you're in syndication and all that stuff, you can keep this in the passive bucket and not necessarily be as active, okay? And it stays in the passive bucket. And that thing called depreciation is a beautiful thing called depreciation that comes and honestly, if you know me, you know that I would take a whole 30 minutes going over all of this, but the details of depreciation are not really the scope of this talk tonight. I will put Millie, can you put a link in the chat? Put the two links in the chat. Put the link for the tax calculator and the link for the tax savings calculator and the link for the STR automation, the automate your STR. Because some of you may be like me and say, for example, like, oh my goodness, but I hear that short-term rentals take a lot of time, or I hear that short-term rentals are this or that. I can tell you we've been running our short-term rentals by ourselves since we started doing them versus our long-term rentals. Long-term rentals all the way, property manager, don't want to touch them. I don't want to deal with tenants. But short-term rentals, they're prettier, they pay more. In one booking, I can make $3,600. In one booking, I have made $12,000. One booking. One. Like my phone buzzed. I looked at it. Holy smokes, $12,000. Yes, it has happened. Okay. One booking. So just by shifting the type of property that I'm buying and how I operate it, right? I move from making $200 a month to generating like money that hits your bank account and you go, ah, nice. Now, if you're out there in the internet streets, you may hear things like, oh, but isn't Airbnb dead? They haven't seen my calendar. Praise the Lord. Okay. Airbnb is not dead, boo. How do I know that Airbnb is not dead? Okay, because I have switched. And I'm gonna in the next video that I'll be sharing, you will see that I have switched my focus right now. But I still launched a property this year. I launched a property. I think it went live, I want to say the end of, was it end of April? Yes, I used my last week I had a vacation last week of April 24th, and I used that week to finish up all the things that need to be done. And I think we got a guest at the end of that week. So just call it like right around first week of May, we launched that property. And I don't have the numbers, but I wish I did. Maybe I'll have it on the next training that I do. But this is the calendar. I don't know if you guys can see this fully. This is that calendar for the one that we launched just a few weeks ago. Okay. So you know that when you launch a property, like it takes a little while for people to actually see it and build up. But this was the one that was launched at the end of April. Okay. Look at these stretches here. This is June. This was launched this month here. Okay. I'm gonna show you one more calendar. All right. And this is all to the glory of God, honestly, because I can't tell you that it hasn't always been like this. Okay. It has not always been like this. Okay, but I will show this to you because I don't want anybody to think that it's dead. Okay. Okay. Oops. Here we go. All right. I think I made the point. you can still make money with short-term rentals. Getting your short-term rental has to be a strategic move. You can't just buy anything anywhere, okay? You can't just, and I'm being very careful this evening because I don't want anybody to run away from this call and just go buy anything off the shelf. That's why I've put the STR automation bundle in the chat right there so that you have a full thing. You learn how to automate it. You learn the in the bundle you have the tax stuff as well, and then you have my full course on the end of it. So you can go through all of that. Okay, that is secret number 2. By switching the property type that you buy from long-term rentals to something that generates more income, like a short-term rental, you can generate more, like I showed you here, and you can also get tax savings here. Okay? All right, who is still with me? Who is still with me? If you're still with me, type a 4 in the chat. Because I'm about to go to secret number 3, and I'm hoping I have enough time really to get through all of this. All right, my people are still here. Awesome, awesome. Okay, great, great, great. Okay, so with secret number 3, I want to show you basically what has I put a whole like stand up, stretch, shake your booty for a second, okay, and then come back to me. If you need to stretch, now will be a good time to stretch because what I'm about to show you, for some of you, may be the thing that unpops the lid, that uncaps the lid, okay? So whatever it takes for me to have your full attention, if you need to shake out your arms, stretch your legs, do a little jiggle, make sure your blood is flowing, do that right now, and then come right back to me, okay? Because and I'll stop the share for a second. A few years ago, when the pandemic actually hit, I I attended a thing online, and basically I saw numbers that I could not unsee. Okay. I saw the same way that I saw that I could switch from long-term rental to short-term rental and generate almost, 10 times the profit. In this case, it was making a transition from not even it was a comparison of my short-term rentals, which I love and still love. And by the way, yeah, I think I will show you this picture, which I love and still love. Okay, these are our other short-term rentals. Okay, but when I compare the numbers, I saw that if I took the same down payment, let's use that same example, $40,000, that I could go from owning a short-term rental to actually buying a business. How do the numbers compare? I'm going to open up Biz Buy Sell here, and that's a website that you all can go onto. Who wants to throw out a number? Oh, sorry, a city. And I like doing this live, and each time I did, I'm like, whoo, okay, but I will do it. Who wants to throw out a city in the chat that you want to check out? Like, where are you based? Okay, let's see who was there first. Seattle, yay! I don't think I've ever gotten Seattle's. Let's see. So this is secret number 3, how smart doctors don't start from scratch, but they buy their income. So let's do Seattle metro area. And without any proofreading, I'm not sure which Chemi this is, okay? But I know multiple Chemis, right? I am just going to show, without doing any like filtering, right on the front, on the first screen right here. Fabrication and installation surface materials. Well, this is a natural stone engineering fabrication company that is for sale for $4.9 million. No shaking, right? But that cash flows $1.2 million annually. Okay? Now, I just told you, or maybe I haven't said it yet, but you can actually acquire a business in the United States. If you are in the United States, you can acquire a business for, hear this, 10% down. Okay? So for 10% down, You, my dear, can acquire this business that generates $1.2 million annually. Now, if you're mathing like I'm mathing, like I did the math, 10% of 4.9 million is $495,000. So if you could somehow come up with $495,000 to get in that year, you could come back with $1.2 million in cash flow, not counting your debt service. Okay. Some of you, your eyes may have glazed over when we put the purchase price at 4.9. If your eyes glaze over, type a 5 in the chat. Let me know those whose eyes just like did like a woo, okay, Chiagas, yeah, that sounds nice, but I know you. I know you. I know you people. I know my people. All right. Don't glaze over. Don't let your eyes glaze over. But just for the proof of concept, let's just scroll down and come within the same realm that I was talking earlier, which was around 450, right? 450 purchase price. All right, I already see one right here without filtering. 14-year promotional profits, blah, 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 with profit potential. Okay, so this business right here, they're asking 450, but the business only makes 125. Notice that I said only, it only makes $125,000. That's not a good one for me because it's so low, I can't pay. They're trying to have me pay 3x of this at this price. It doesn't work like that. When it's this much lower, notice over here, it was doing 1.2 and they were asking 4.9. This is about a 4x, which is actually on the higher side. When it's lower, you can buy a business that generates even like $200,000 for $450,000. So for the $45,000 down, you could potentially make, okay, let's just use the example right in front of us. You could potentially make 125, but I wouldn't buy this because it's overpriced. When it's when the profit is lower, the multiple is also lower. It's a thing of he that has more and more will be given. Okay, when the profit is very low, the multiple is very low. It's like 1 or even point something. Okay, when the profit is higher, the multiple is higher. Like look at this one, 2.4, 8.4. This one I would consider because it's not even this is like a 3 point something multiple. It's not even up to a 4x multiple on this one. Okay, so let's just use this as the example for tonight. I don't like the deal, but just as the example. So for $45,000 down, you could generate an extra $125,000 in cash flow annually. Let's keep scrolling. Again, remember, I didn't look through this beforehand. I pulled the city from the chat. Here's this one. In-home care. Now, this is more like it. This is closer to reality. In-home care business. Cash flow 360. They're asking 800,000. Okay? The cash flow is 360. What multiple is that? Somebody can do the math there. That's like that's just a little over 2x. So if you had $80,000, what you would otherwise have spent on buying a long-term rental for $320,000 that will only make you, $20 a month or whatever, right? You could generate $360,000 in cash flow before your debt service. Now, I'm saying before debt service because debt service, I mean, if you use a mortgage or a loan or whatever, that you have to pay your loan back, which is your own money, right? But imagine if with one transaction, instead of you having to, like people talk about, oh, I have 20 doors, 50 doors, 80 doors, 100 doors, 1,000 doors. Instead of you doing that, you could do with one transaction this and effectively generate your annual salary, a portion of your annual salary, whatever this number represents to you, right? So let's factor in debt service. To buy this at 800,000, your debt service here will probably be about $140,000. So remove 140 from this, that leaves you with 220. So let's say who here will be okay with generating an extra $220,000 annually in cash flow? Type a 6 in the chat if that's you. There we go. Okay. All right. So if you want to just play around, right? Go on to Biz Buy Sell. Type in your city. Just look around. Just look around, okay? Look around because looking around was what made me decide, you know what? When I talk to doctors and they tell me I need to replace my income. I need something that blah blah blah. They have an actual need or a want. I want to be able to spend more time with my kids. I'm not sure how much longer I can do this. They tell me all these things. I'm like, this is what they're looking for. These are the numbers they are looking for. I like the $30,000 on a short-term rental. I love it, and I love my lake houses. But when I shut down, my STR coaching, it wasn't for nothing. It was because I said, with what is happening in medicine right now, this right here is where every physician needs to be focused. Every physician needs to be focused on owning the enterprise, on controlling the enterprise that will ultimately be their income stream in the next 5 to 10 years. I haven't mentioned the word AI on this call. Okay? If you are not asking yourself, how can AI replace my job? You need to start asking that question right now. Okay? Because the speed at which these developments are happening, you need to be in the seat of those that are leveraging artificial intelligence, that are deploying automations, that are doing all the things, okay? Leveraging the things that are accessible to us today that may or may not have been available 5 years ago to grow cash printing businesses. So, what is the play here? The play here is that you buy a business like this. Let's say you find, I don't know, I don't do restaurants, but let's say you find something like, this, again, another restaurant. Okay, Med Spa. Okay, no numbers there. Okay, perfect. All right. Let's say you found this HVAC. I don't know these numbers are real. Okay, this doesn't look real to me. But let's say you found this company. Okay, you buy it, you grow it with automations, AI, streamlining the business or the practice if you buy a medical practice, and you could eventually turn around and sell it and create for yourself a handsome payday. Okay, but as simple as it looks on the surface, somebody type in the chat and type that there are nuances. Type nuances in the chat. Okay. Now, when I began looking at these, initially I didn't really have I did have a framework from the first one, but I didn't have the internal belief that I could do this. Okay. Um, but then I went for an in-person event hosted by then Michael Byers. And while I was there, I met a young lady. Her name was Chelsea. She was a single mom, had, I don't know, 2 kids, and she had just closed on a business where the seller was actually just trying to retire and actually ended up staying in the business. Um, and by the time she came in, they did whatever they did, and she was generating, I think it was 30K in her first month or thereabout. And I saw her and I'm thinking to myself, wow, she has one head. If you're Nigerian, you probably caught that reference, but she had one head, right? She didn't have 2 heads. In other words, she was just like me. And I saw it and I was like, wow. But it was at that in-person event that that's basically we were able to unlock. I was able to unlock the belief that I could do it. Okay. And that became my reason for like my strong pivot. If you now see me talking online, that's what I talk about. Recently, we looked at a deal right here in the Syracuse area, not too far from us. That if it had closed, if it had taken up our offer, would have generated about $900,000 prior to debt service, and about maybe 500 or so thereabout post debt, maybe 450, 500 after debt service. And the purchase price would have been, well, the business purchase price would have been about 3.5. So if we put down 350, we could do that. Okay. Now, there are 5 things that I look for in a business that I'm looking to acquire or that I'm thinking about, okay? Because as you can see, there are multiple that has a lot on here, okay? 5 things. Number one, let me open a spreadsheet. Number one, spreadsheet sheets. So the 5 things. Um, Number one is revenue. Okay. I like the revenue to be at least to be between 1 to 10 million. Actually, no, I like it to be more than 10 million. But when I'm searching actively, or let me put it this way, when I have my spreadsheet, my cheat sheet, what you will see on there is 1 to 5, 1 to 5 or 1 to 10 million. It depends. It depends on the day you see me, that number may change. Okay. 1 to 5, 1 to 10 million, depending on what your sphincters can handle on the day, right? So revenue 1 to 10, 1 to 5 million. But the key thing there really is that it's more than a million. Okay. If it's not generating more than $1 million, I usually don't go any further because it just tells me that the business is probably not mature enough for me to step in, because when I'm trying to do this, I really am trying to acquire businesses with systems as against a job. Okay, so revenue. I'm also looking for how many employees does it have, right? So I'm looking for 10 employees or more. Why am I looking for 10 employees or more? Because when you buy the business from the person that's selling, if they're trying to retire, trying to go somewhere else, you don't want it to be that by the time the seller leaves, his wife leaves, maybe his nephew, leaves as well, then now you're stuck, holding the bag. You want to buy a business that already has the people and the systems and the processes in place, for it to be fully operational even when the owner leaves or retires or goes elsewhere. The next thing that I like to see is a solid profit margin. Okay. And this profit margin I like to be above 25%. And why is this? Because I need room for my debt service. Okay. So if I am going to, well, 2 things. I need room for my debt service. And number 2 is that I want to make sure that even if there's a dip in revenue when the prior owner leaves, that it doesn't wipe out all the profit, because I want to get paid when I do, work. And then the next thing here, so revenue, employees, profit margin. Oh, the age of the business. Okay. So the age of the business, I like it to be at least 5 years, but for sure, I prefer to look for them when they're 10 years old and older. We're looking for mature businesses. So the thing about acquisitions right now is that we are currently in the prime time for this. Okay, there are tons and tons of mature people that have built their businesses over the years that are looking to retire, looking to hand off their babies into capable hands, but there are not enough buyers. Okay, and so I don't need to go buy a business that is not tried and tested. Okay, you want a business that is built, that has put its prongs down. Okay, and the last thing that I like to look for is a right hand person. Basically somebody in the business, right, that understands the working of the place, so that way by the time the prior owner, the seller, leaves, I'm not stuck trying to figure out the business from scratch, but there is someone in there that can run and operate the business. And then obviously after this is just the initial screening. It doesn't mean that whenever I see anything that fits all of these boxes, then all of a sudden, yes, I have to buy it. No, there are other nuances that you kind of have to do, but at least this is like my initial filter. This is what I use when I'm scanning through these businesses right here. And I'm just as you can see, I didn't even mention this one right here. I didn't even talk about it, right? Like I didn't even bring it up. It as well could even not have even existed on this screen right here, okay? Because it doesn't meet my buy box by a long shot. This one I will consider. If it wasn't in, Seattle, if it were in Syracuse, heck yeah, I'll be putting in my request right now. Now, as you can imagine, beyond this initial screening process, there are things you have to look for. What industry? How do you finance this thing? How do you negotiate with the sellers? How do you structure it in a way that it's a win-win for all parties? How do you scale the business when you get it, right? All of these things are things you have to consider, but from a let's open up the conversation standpoint. Who here can see acquisition or business acquisition as a nice next step when it comes to hitting those meaningful income goals? Type a 7 in the chat if that's you. If you're thinking, yeah, this sounds like it'll be a nice next step, type a 7 in the chat. Okay, Arinze. Yep, I see you, Arinze. Yep. Potentially. Okay, Dr. Kim, tell me the potentially part. Because when I see potentially, it tells me that there's something that says, I don't know. It sounds good, but tell me what's the but? Oh, there you go. Okay. Okay, good. 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 Who else? How many people are left on this call? Let's see. Okay, still all of you. Okay. Who else here? Because if it's something that you would like to learn about, I could actually tell you. There you go. Okay, good. I could tell you of something that we've put together to actually help you learn about buying a business. Because when I was the first business that I got under contract, or it's called LOI, a letter of intent, during due diligence. So one of the things that you do is you run due diligence on the business, and you kind of have an accountant look through the books and have an attorney look through the legal stuff and make sure that everything is good. But during due diligence, something came up, and I happened to be speaking with now a mentor of mine, but I had him on the phone one day, and I was like, hey, I have this thing that I'm looking at. Would you mind just like telling me, your thoughts about it? And he was like, sure. So I tell him, and he's like, oh yeah, drop. He was like, no, on to the next one. On to the next one. And I was like, wait, what? And it was a very, in my mind, it was a small nuance. But that was when I said, okay, acquisitions is not something that you just throw out there. People actually have to have guidance. People actually have to, should want to learn from somebody who has done this. So if you would like me to tell you of what we've put together, type a 1 in the chat. Have you gotten value from this, by the way? Type a yes if you've gotten value, and a 1 if you want to get. Okay, good. Okay, great. Okay. So I see a 1 in the chat. Who else? Okay, there you go. All right, there you go. Great. Yeah, so back in November, I hosted an event. And some of you who are here may actually have been on there. But I hosted a conference type thing, like a summit to show people what's happening in the acquisition world, just to be like, hey, look at this, like turn your gaze onto this. But when I was done, or during the event, someone put in the comments and was like, do you have a course? Do you have a thing? And at the time I was like, like I can send you to this or that, or you can go to it. And then it hit me, and I was like, no. When she asked you if you had a course, she wasn't trying to go like sit on like 3, 4, 5 sales calls and then trying to now like sort through 5 different programs and do all of that. She came to you to ask, and I was like, all right, fine. So what I did was I tapped one of the speakers at that event, and I was like, hey, would you mind teaching a course on this? And he agreed. Now, here's the fun thing. I didn't just tap anybody. I tapped a gentleman that himself, this is him right here, Michael Byers. He has been acquiring businesses for the last 20 years. His current business portfolio generates about $145 million annually. He has done, over 50 deals, a bunch of exits, and he was gracious enough. Sure, Doc, no problem. But he was gracious enough to actually agree to come talk on my event. And so when I asked him, I said, would you mind teaching? He agreed. And so that was how we began working together. Now we hosted the first cohort and the second cohort. And then I began hearing him say, as we talk to people, he was saying things like, well, I've been, my deal flow is ramping up. And I actually prefer doing the deals. Like I don't make my money from coaching or teaching. I make my money from doing deals. And so I began to kind of get this sense that, he's getting busy. So I said, but the first time that I really met him was at his live event, at his in-person event, which he doesn't host anymore. So I asked him and I said, hey, you know how you guys had that live event that I came for? Would you would you be interested in hosting another one this time with me? And he said, sure, yeah, let's do that. Because I found it as a way to still get him to come teach our people in a nice, like I learned, like that weekend that I went to his event, I learned what I learned. Like I left that event and I got my first business under LOI. Okay. So it wasn't a diluted, it wasn't like, no, it was a good full on, no problem. Yeah. But it was a full on training event. And so now we're going to be hosting that event September 12th through the 14th to help you learn how you can find, fund, scale, right? Grow and potentially exit a cash flowing business. If that is something you would like to learn even more about, type a 2 in the chat so that way I know that I can keep going. Okay, perfect. All right. So it's gonna be right here in Syracuse, in the Syracuse area. Okay. Um, not far from the airport. The airport's about 20 minutes from the actual location. And when you come, it's gonna be starting on a Friday. So the 12th is a Friday. So we'll go full day Friday, we'll go full day Saturday. That way people can go home on Sunday. Okay. Michael is going to be teaching. I'm going to be bringing, I actually spoke with someone yesterday to bring in the medical perspective, a guy that's been buying particularly medical practices. I'm thinking I'm going to get to bring him on board as well. So when you join us, you will get access to the full training, the full Catalyst training in one weekend so that you can have it in one space that you can think about it and you can literally go out and start to find your own businesses. One of the beautiful things that I like about working with Mike is that he is such a giving person. Like when I mentioned this to him and I was trying to figure out, like I was even thinking like, okay, I'm trying to like not like take up all his time or whatever. And so I was being a little like, okay, can we do like in one? He was like, no. He was like, we can't do it in one day. No, like it's going to be too much. He said, we have to do it in a way that when people come, they can actually go out and get a deal done. Okay. For him, it's more of the impact. Okay. And for me as well, obviously, clearly. Okay. It's more of like, make sure that people are actually able to use the information that we're teaching them, not just to teach them for teaching people's sake. Okay. So when you come, you learn from him, but he gives access. This is an extra perk. He gives access to, so basically over the years, he developed a system for searching the internet for deals. And as the tech person that he is, he actually built out a tool. He built out a scraper, a web scraper that, hold on, let's take out the login. I don't know if you could let me go to the sales page for it. I don't know if he has a sales page. Anyway, he built a web scraper that actually helps people find, like it scrapes the internet every 4 hours, right? And pulls out businesses that you can actually use to filter which businesses have come on the market in the last 3 days, the last 3 days, last 7 days, last 30 days. And this is important for those who are like actively searching for deals so that they can find the hottest deals with a simple click of a button. You get access to this tool. This tool retails for $800 a month. But when you come for the Catalyst event, you get access to 6 months of this for free as part of your bonus. Now, The investment to come for the event is $5,000, but for those who want to come with their spouses, business partners, and when I say business partners, I mean somebody that will be doing deals with you, there's a extra person discount, and so then you can come for 7,500. Okay. If you have a kid, this is the one that actually lights up my heart because I'm all about like generational wealth being part of what you pass on to your kids in their brains. But if you have a kid, we have had, or they have had, 14-year-olds do Catalyst. Sorry, come for the live event. Okay. The testimonial on this page. Oh, at the bottom, where is it? There's a thing here. Hold on, let me show you. This guy that came for the last iteration that we did this, he had his, what the heck are my testimonials? There we go. Okay. See this guy right here? That's this guy's son. And this guy here is 19 years old. Okay, so if you have a kid that is 18 or less, the child can come for free. The child or teenager, right, can come for free. So if you have a kid that you want to like motivate and show how the wealthy are building wealth in real time, you can bring them along for free. There's one more thing. Oh yeah, okay. There's also a deal document vault that Mike says cost him over $100,000 of attorney fees to build. He also gives you access to that when you come for the event. What questions do you have about Catalyst that I can answer while we are on live? Those of you who are on. And if you want to raise your hand or whatever, at this point, I don't mind. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Millie. So yeah, so Millie has put the link in the chat. If you would like to sign up, that is the link right there. But what questions do you have that I can answer? Actually, let's open it up to really any questions that you have, because I just talked about Catalyst, but really any questions that you have. Let's handle our Q&A at this time. Oh hey Victoria, I didn't see you. Hey Alamo, hey Amy. Sorry, I didn't see all the names in the chat because I was focused here. What questions do you have about all the things we talked about? So we started from how you can build your own thing to how you can buy an asset, and instead of getting peanuts, you can get meaningful income. And now we moved on to talking about how you can, instead of building the business, buy the business that is already built. What questions do you have? We'll take the next 15 minutes or so to finish that up. Who has a question? Questions. Who has a question? If you have a question, let me make sure that there's nothing here. Of all the things that we talked about a lot tonight. The next one that I do, I may tweak it. Okay, so let me actually, I just saw that Stefania actually had a question at the beginning. I know she's off now, but I'm gonna tell her that I answered it here so she can come watch the replay. So Stefania's question was, her initial question was, what area is actually worth our time and effort? And hopefully hopefully that question has been answered by the third secret that we shared, which is you don't have to, build the business from scratch. You can actually buy it, right? Because when we're talking about meaningful income, the time to ramp up, one thing that people forget, or that sometimes the highlight reels you see on the internet leave out, not because anybody is trying to deceive you, it's just that doesn't make for good TV, right? Is that it takes time to build these things when you're building from scratch. When you're building from scratch, like I just showed you, right? When I was building Savvy Docs, as I'm building Savvy Docs, heck, right? Um, I began with $49. It took a lot of mental energy to jump to 247 or 249. A lot of mental energy to jump to 2K. And then I had 3 clients. And then I eventually, mustered the energy to get to, 12K. And then I got to 50K. And as in all these things that, like I told you on one slide, but that was like a good maybe 3 years. Right? So, you know, building building from scratch is cute. It has a fancy name called startup, but in the last 4 years, my attention has really now been on mostly buying because I'm not trying to prove anything to anybody. Like I'm not here for likes, right? I'm here to try to figure out, what will, make me money, make my family money, make my generations money, right? And not just for the likes, not just for the I barely know even I barely know how to click on Instagram. I'm not an Instagram. Okay. I used to not be an Instagram person. Let me rephrase my words. All right. But so it takes time to build things. So if you're going to build anything, make sure you build into your mindset or into your planning that this may take some time. This may take some time. And if it takes time, is it still going to be worth my while? Okay. Is it still going to be worth my while? Other questions? I'm trying to see if there are any other questions that were not answered. Okay. Next one here is generating passive income. On generating passive income, I try not to use the word passive income, not because income cannot be passive, but a lot of times what people are talking about when they say passive income is actually income that has to be built actively first. And so they're disappointed when there is work involved. Things can end up seeming like they're passive eventually, but there's usually a build-up time that if I told you passive income, it would almost seem like being deceptive. So what I like to say is leveraged income, right? Is income that does not necessarily require that I show up at work every time to produce for me. Okay. So right, I mean, I showed you right now, I showed you, the information space, coaching, consulting, monetizing your brilliance, that could be turned into passive. But as you can see, I'm here right now. Will you call this passive income? If I made any money this evening, I don't know if I'll call it passive, right? So when people are looking for passive, I caution them because it can get them into sometimes into risky situations and sometimes into flat out lies. But now there are ways to make money that are actually passive. Just know that generally speaking, the returns on those are usually on the lower side. Okay. So for example, if you like last year, 2 years ago, I raised capital and every investor that I worked with, some made 10%, some made 12%. Um, you know, interest. So when I paid them back, technically that was passive income because they didn't have to do anything active to make that money. So yes, that is passive income. Um, but even that, like, things happen in the deal and things like that, that eventually they got their funds back. But you're basically, if you do that, it's you don't have control over that asset anymore, and it could still be a win. Like in our case, we had one lender say, she's still looking for a place to put the money, even when we give it back to her. So you just have to keep that in mind that when people are looking for passive, very often it involves somebody else being the operator, somebody else controlling the asset, which is okay instances. Just know that the active part for you then is to vet that person. Vet the person very well. All right. Let me see if I can find another question in here. All right. So I don't see any additional questions. If there are no additional questions, then if you would like to join us, well, how many of you here are thinking of coming for the Catalyst event in September? If that's you, type a 7 or an 8 in the chat. I think we're at 8 now. Type an 8 in the chat just so that I know if you're thinking about it, remotely thinking about it. You're like, well, I want to see if my calendar works. I want to see if, just let me know that you are, so that way, if anything is changing, any perks or whatever are coming out, then we'll make sure that we know to let you know as well. Type an 8 in the chat if that's you. Okay. All right. So we'll hop off here at this time. I hope you guys found this useful. I hope you found it actionable. Your homework still exists. Your homework is to sit down and do your brainstorm. Do your brainstorm. Think about what assets you have, what skills, what experiences, what gifts, what talents, what things you can actually monetize, and then think about who could use your help with that thing, and then how you can package it profitably so that you can turn it into something meaningful. If you need help with that, also feel free to reach out, because I know people. Okay. I know people. I have done consulting for that for someone in the past. Like I mentioned, my client, but I have just I control my spots for those. I curate those spots very well. So if that's something that you're thinking about, feel free to reach out. But I'd like to thank my team for being on tonight as well. Millie and Victoria, thank you for hopping on. If they reach out to you, they're not spammers. Okay, they are on our team. All right. Have an amazing evening. Go there and crush it. And I hope this hopefully unpopped a cap for you in your thinking about how much you can make outside of medicine. All right, guys, take care.